Welcome back, AP. All right, so let's keep this short, sweet, to the point. I know a lot of y'all have a leadership class tonight, and I told you I would keep this kind of on the minimal, but let's get after it, shall we? Now, when we started talking today in class, we started getting after kind of like the different ideas of all of the humanists, right? So starting all the way back at some of our premier humanists, we talked about Petrarch. Going all the way forward to one of our later Christian humanists, we talked about Erasmus, right? Well, the thing about it is Petrarch's ideas from the 1350s spread very, very slowly from person to person throughout all of Europe, right? Whereas Erasmus's ideas spread ridiculously quickly, especially his criticisms of the Pope and all these funny drawings he did of Julius II. But all of his ideas spread extremely quickly. Better question is why, all right? And I know I hear Shane Slack freaking out right now. The printing press, right? The printing press was a monumental step forward when it came to the spread of ideas and the traveling of information throughout the Renaissance. Well, the thing about it is that the technology, it's been around for a long time. It was actually around for over 100 years, long before the printing press was ever kind of really beefed up by Johannes Gutenberg himself. So the big conflict between the two designs, though, was the metal design and the wooden design. So Koreans and Chinese had actually had a printing press for several hundred years, but all of theirs were made out of wood. Now, the problem with the wooden ones is they would degrade really easily. The ink would soak into the wood, causing mold and the decomposition of the types, right? Whereas Gutenberg, who was a metalsmith, introduced and designed the very first type press involving metal individual typed letters, right? Individual type letters. Each letter itself was called a type. That's why we call it typing, okay? So, and I'm sure all of y'all remember the lowercase versus uppercase thing from freshman year, right? Well, also not to mention the fact, too, that Gutenberg, not as important as people give him credit for, because paper making actually came from the Chinese and the Muslims in Spain, and it was a huge technology already used, and they were making it in very high amounts, right? Literacy, though, however, when we took the Gutenberg-style printing press and the avid abundance of paper and melded them together, literacy would explode during the Renaissance. Books were now made by monks, nuns, but particularly were made by printers. All right, so print shops began to open, printing guilds began to open. So Gutenberg is not all that important. I mean, the German smith himself is very, very important in a sense, like in his smithing of that first machine. But by 50 years following his design, 8 to 20 million books were printed within that 50 years, which is more than had ever been produced up to that point. Now, print shops also became, write this down, print shops even became sites of influential thinking, counterculture thinking, protest thinking, right? So politicians used to use print shops to actually distribute their materials. Revolutionaries would use print shops to try and actually throw their ideas out there in secret, right? Print shops became a very, very important part of European society starting in the mid-1500s. However, Gutenberg himself is not as important, but the industry of printing is, okay? So the industry itself is a lot more important than the man who actually just made the first metal type one, right? So the reason why we're getting after that, though, is due to the fact that now we're going to be talking about the spread of a lot of these humanist ideas and their impact on art and the explosion of that stuff forward. If I can get access to the cube tomorrow, we're probably going to go up there because I really want to show you some art on a big screen. But I'll leave a sign on the door to let you know, okay? But that's it. Told you guys it's going to be short. Very impressed with what you're doing. Please keep up the good work. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great evening, AP.